Claire's journey through Silent Hill had led her to a series of disturbing discoveries. Abandoned buildings, eerie landscapes, and encounters with the undead had all become part of her surreal nightmare. She couldn't shake the feeling that the town itself was a malevolent force, intent on keeping her trapped within its nightmarish grasp. As she continued to navigate the fog, shrouded streets, Claire's thoughts turned to her brother. Chris had always been her protector, her hero. She couldn't bear the thought of him being lost in this twisted realm. With renewed determination, she pressed on, hoping that each step would bring her closer to answers. Meanwhile, Heather's flight from the monstrous creature had led her into the heart of Silent Hill's darkness. She found herself in an otherworldly version of the town, where reality itself seemed to warp and twist. Buildings shifted and changed. Streets became labyrinthine mazes, and the very air was filled with an oppressive malevolence. Heather's heart pounded in her chest as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. She was no stranger to the nightmarish transformations that Silent Hill could inflict, but this was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was as if the town itself was a living, breathing entity, toying with her sanity. Claire's path took her to an old, decrepit hospital that loomed like a haunted sentinel in the fog. The building's windows were shattered, and its walls bore the scars of unimaginable violence. It was a place that radiated a sense of foreboding, but Claire knew she had to explore its depths in her search for answers. Inside the hospital, Claire's footsteps echoed ominously in the dimly lit corridors. The flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. It was a place that had seen unspeakable suffering, and Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone. Heather's journey through the otherworldly version of Silent Hill led her to a room that sent shivers down her spine. It was a classroom frozen in time, with children's drawings adorning the walls and desks neatly arranged. But what caught Heather's attention was the figure standing at the front of the room. A tall, grotesque creature with a face that resembled a mask of agony. The creature turned slowly to face Heather, and a wave of terror washed over her. Its eyes, if they could be called eyes, bore into her soul. Heather knew that she had to escape, that this creature was a harbinger of unspeakable horrors. Back in the hospital, Claire stumbled upon a room filled with rows of body bags. Each bag seemed to twitch and writhe as if something was trapped within. Claire's instincts screamed at her to leave, but she couldn't tear her eyes away from the macabre sight. What kind of horrors had transpired in this place? Heather's frantic flight from the classroom led her through a series of twisted corridors that seemed to shift and change with every step. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling, and Heather had no control over her own destiny. Desperation set in as she realized that she was trapped in this nightmarish labyrinth. Claire's exploration of the hospital took a darker turn when she discovered a journal on a cluttered desk. The journal described horrific experiments conducted on humans, experiments that seemed to have no purpose other than to inflict pain and suffering. Claire's hands trembled as she read the gruesome accounts. The name Umbrella Corporation appeared repeatedly in the journal, linking the horrors of Raccoon City to the darkness of Silent Hill. Heather's flight through the twisted corridors of the otherworldly school brought her to a dead-end room. Panic set in as she realized there was no way out. She turned to face the approaching monstrosity, her back against the wall. But just as the creature was about to reach her, the world around them shifted. Claire's exploration of the hospital led her to a room that seemed like it belonged to a mad scientist. Shelves were lined with jars containing bizarre, malformed creatures suspended in a greenish liquid. The room was a grotesque museum of experiments gone horribly wrong, and Claire's fear deepened. She couldn't help but wonder if the horrors of Silent Hill were connected to the sinister experiments of the Umbrella Corporation. Back in Silent Hill, Heather and the creature found themselves in a new location entirely. They were now in an otherworldly version of the school, where the walls were covered in pulsating flesh, and the air was filled with a cacophony of whispered voices. The creature seemed disoriented, its movements slow and uncertain. Claire's exploration of the mad scientist's room took an even darker turn when she discovered a file labeled Project Silent Hill. The file contained detailed plans for a series of experiments that involved tapping into the darkest recesses of the human mind, creating a nightmarish realm where fear and despair reigned supreme. It was a horrifying revelation, and Claire couldn't help but feel that she had stumbled upon the very heart of Silent Hill's malevolence. Heather's encounter with the creature took a surreal turn as the walls of the otherworldly school closed in around them. It was as though the very fabric of reality was unraveling. In a final, desperate bid for survival, Heather reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, ornate key, a key that had been a gift from her father, Harry. Claire, overwhelmed by the horrors she had witnessed, made a decision. She had to find a way out of this nightmarish place. As she retraced her steps through the hospital, she discovered a door that led to a stairwell. Without hesitation, she began to ascend, hoping that higher ground would bring her closer to an escape. Heather's key fit into a lock in the otherworldly school, and the door creaked open to reveal a blinding light. She stepped through, leaving the pursuing creature behind. As the door closed, the world around her seemed to shift again, and she found herself back in the familiar, fog-shrouded streets of Silent Hill. Claire's ascent up the hospital stairwell seemed to go on forever, but finally, she emerged onto the roof. The fog was thick here, and the air was frigid, but for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she could see a glimmer of hope in the distance, a faint light that beckoned her forward. Heather, back in the streets of Silent Hill, couldn't help but feel that her encounter with the creature had been a test of some kind. A test of her will to survive and confront her own inner demons. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she also knew that she had the strength to face whatever Silent Hill had in store for her. Claire, drawn by the distant light, ventured deeper into the fog. She couldn't explain the source of the light, but it seemed to offer a glimmer of salvation in this nightmarish realm. As she walked, the fog began to thin, and the air grew less oppressive. It was as if she was leaving the darkest depths of Silent Hill behind.